Noel Anderson's 15 Minutes of Fame, coming to you live from Auckland, New Zealand.
Remember to subscribe and share.
G'day, you little Vegemites. It's Noel Anderson. I've got to tell you, I'm sitting on my bed in the hotel and I'm relaxed here. I've got my laptop on top of my knees. I'm holding the mic. I am ready to talk to you about Auckland, New Zealand. It's great that you're here with me, but let's start on our journey into Auckland, known as Tamaki Makaurau in Maori, has a rich history that dates back to the 14th century when Maori settlers first arrived. The area was highly desirable due to its fertile land and strategic location between two harbours. European settlers arrived in the late 18th century and Auckland was established as the capital of New Zealand in 1840 by Governor William Hobson. Although the capital was later moved to Wellington in 1865, Auckland continues to grow and is now the largest city in New Zealand, known for its diverse culture and its bustling economy. And that was your intro into Auckland, New Zealand. I'm actually in my hotel room and I'm recording this podcast to discuss the pros and the cons of Auckland. I guess the question I have listening to a lot of podcasts and watching a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of people say, just give Auckland 2 days. And I'm wondering if Auckland's worth more than 2 days. So this podcast is going to be about my experience. And at the end, I'll wrap up what I think Auckland is worth. If it's worth 2 days, 3 days, or 4 days, or 5 days of your time. Now, one of the first things I did when I arrived in Auckland after I settled into my hotel is a rather sexy kind of hotel just off of K Road, which is a rather dodgy part of town, has a lot of nightclubs and bars and some terrific restaurants, I've got to say. I had a wonderful Middle Eastern meal on K Road the other day and it was really, really beautiful. But the area attracts some quite undesirable characters, and I'd caution, if you're going to wander around there a little bit, just be alert. I mean, I don't think anything bad's going to happen to you, but you may encounter someone you hadn't expected to encounter. Like there was one girl that was just screaming at the top of her voice, "Fuck off, fuck off." And it worked. Nobody went anywhere near her, including me. I avoided her completely. But anyway, back to the touristy stuff that we're all wanting to hear, The first thing I did was go to the Sky Tower. Now, the Sky Tower has 360-degree views of Auckland. It's the tallest building in New Zealand. One of the first things I saw as I stood at the bottom of the Sky Tower was these two men plummeting down. I mean, there were people bungee jumping off the Sky Tower. It was quite a shock, and it's a long way down. So that was my introduction to the Sky Tower. The lift takes you to the top, and there are several floors on the top which you can enjoy, and you can literally sit and watch people jump off the building. So if you've got a little bit of a fetish for heights and plummeting to your death, then by all means rush to buy a ticket, because I'm sure you'll love it. All jokes aside, the Sky Tower is a world-class attraction. I spent 2 hours there and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And if you're wondering, no, I did not jump off the building. I kept my feet firmly planted on the Sky Tower floor, and I had no desire to plummet off of that building whatsoever. But you, on the other hand, may want to do that. Once I'd finished the Sky Tower experience, I took myself down to Viaduct Harbour and just had a little bit of a bite to eat. It's quite a nice area of Auckland, and there are a lot of rather expensive eateries down there, but the view is spectacular and the harbour is lovely. And on a nice day, it was a nice way of spending my time. It was nice to just kind of relax by the water and have a bite to eat. So I highly recommend going to Viaduct Harbour. It's a good place to go. Of course, when you're traveling by yourself, I'm traveling alone, solo traveling. It's not for sissies, you know what I mean? It's a hard thing to do, and there's no one to share your experiences with. So you're pretty much eating alone and you're walking alone. You can quite often get lost in your own mind. Of course, the trick to that is to switch your mind off the minute you start thinking about anything that is negative. Otherwise, you will be jumping off the Sky Tower building. Luckily, I turned my mind off the minute I thought about something not so good, and I'm still here to tell the tale. Now, there's a few things you definitely should do. I think it's the Auckland Art Gallery and War Memorial Museum. It's a mouthful, but it is absolutely terrific. The building alone is worth the effort, and I enjoyed walking around the building. The exhibitions are also terrific. There's quite a bit of Maori history there, if that's your thing. And if, all the world wars are your thing, then it has a very good war memorial and war museum as well. I saw an exhibition there called Bloodsuckers because I'm a little bit hooked on vampires. I actually directed a show about lesbian vampires, believe it or not, back in the 90s in Brisbane. And ever since then, I've had a real fascination for vampires and lesbians, I suppose, at the same time. The Bloodsucker exhibition was pretty good. It looked at Hollywood films, but also looked at animals and creatures that survive on blood of other creatures. I made the very big mistake of walking back down to the wharf, and it was an extremely hot day, and the walk took about 40 minutes. I thought, am I going to make this? Am I going to die in Auckland? That's what I was thinking. It was so hot, and I was starting to panic because I'd run out of water. I ended up falling into this British pub that was down on the wharfs. That refreshed me. God love the Brits, saving the day again, and I survived the experience. What I don't want this to do is to turn into a podcast, which sounds like a vlog. I want it to be more than that, so I've got to think of something else I can share with you with my husky voice. Let me have a think. What happened? Something odd must have happened. I know. As I mentioned earlier on, I'm around the corner from K Road, which is kind of a nightclub area of Auckland. So I thought it was kind of a warm night. I was feeling hot, and I thought I'll get out of my room and go for a little bit of a stroll. And I was walking past this bar, which is called Saloon. I thought, you know what, let's go inside and have a beer. So I went inside and I sat down and ordered a beer, and I sat at this bar. And I remember there was this sign on the wall which said, "Beer, helping ugly people have sex since 1862. I don't know about you, but I thought that was kind of sweet. Anyway, I'm sitting there with my beer, and I'm just, flicking through my phone as you do when you're by yourself in a strange city, in a strange bar. And this woman comes over to me. She says to me, "Love, are you alone?" I looked up and thought I'd recognised her. She reminded me of the woman from the film Priscilla. The woman that comes over and challenges Terence Stamp to a drinking competition and loses. She's quite big, and this woman wasn't big. She was small, But anyway, look, I looked up, and there she is standing in front of me, and she gave me the biggest toothless smile. Then she hugged me. Well, I didn't know what to do, so I just hugged her back because, you want to be friendly to strangers if you're by yourself and you're in their city. So I hugged her back, And then she looked at me and she said, "We have a rule here. No one is allowed to sit alone." Well, I tell you, I was a little bit worried. I was like, I don't know if I want to sit with this toothless woman, and I think I'd rather be alone. I'm a rule breaker. I want to break the rules. She said, come on, come over and meet my friends. It was an encounter that I didn't know I wanted, and I didn't think I needed. So as friendly as she was, and as lovely as she was, and as inebriated as she was, I just felt I could only say one thing, and that was no. So that's what I said. I said no. Well, her face hit the floor. It was like I'd shot her. There was a little bit of silence, and then she said to me, "Okay, I didn't mean, love, to interfere. We're a friendly lot here. We're a family. We just, I just wanted to make sure you were okay." And I said to her, "Look, I'm okay. If this means anything to you, you're probably the first person that's worried about me in Auckland and felt that I should have company because I've been by myself. I'm a solo traveller, and that's who I am." Anyway, she gave me another hug and sat next to this man who was sitting on a stool opposite me. Now, this guy was weird. He had like long grey beard and this long straggly hair. He looked like he'd just walked out of Woodstock from the 60s. He had this hanky, and he was kept sniffing this hanky. So whatever was on it was putting him on another planet. I kind of thought, she's not going to have much luck with this fellow on the other stool on the other side. If I've turned her down for conversation, this gentleman's not even going to be able to have a conversation with her. Sure enough, that's what happened. Anyway, it was kind of an interesting experience at the bar, and I've got to say the place was very friendly overall. There was a lot of people enjoying themselves, and there was a few people, as I mentioned before, off their faces, and that woman who was pretty drunk. So I finished my beer, and when her back was turned, I snuck out of the bar and went back to the hotel. Well, gee, that was a bit of a story, wasn't it? I tell you what I did do, and something you definitely should do if you're in Auckland. I took the ferry to Waiheke Island, which is this beautiful island that's known for its vineyards, olive groves, and stunning beaches. It was a lovely day. I did partake in a little bit of wine tasting right up front in the morning because I just felt that was the way to go. I felt 10 a.m. in the morning, hit the wine, and then sober up as you go along into the day. And that's exactly what I did do. The only thing I would recommend if you're going to Waiheke Island is I would definitely buy a ticket with the bus, the ferry, and the wineries because it's rather expensive doing it the way I did it, where you're paying for the wine separately. It's a fab day out. I highly recommend doing it. I mean, I think Auckland has a lot to offer. I've really enjoyed my time in Auckland, and I've really enjoyed walking around the city. It's much bigger than I was expecting, much more sophisticated than I was expecting, and the food has been absolutely incredible. If you want to see some really good exhibitions and if you want to see some truly beautiful scenery, I think there's enough here to occupy you. One warning I'd like to give is that if you're coming to Auckland, wear some good shoes because I caught the ferry over to Devonport and I went up Mount Victoria. It has a Maori name, but for some odd reason, I can't remember it now. But I walked up to the top of Mount Victoria in Devonport and it was a hard walk. As a matter of fact, all of Auckland is very, very hilly. So make sure you're wearing really good shoes. Be prepared to walk and walk a lot uphill and maybe try and find someone to chat to at a bar like I did. And maybe unlike me, go over and meet their friends because who knows what could have happened. I could be anywhere. I could be in Rotorua, living it up with some hot, spunky person. So what have we discovered? We've discovered that Auckland is a 4 or 5 day city. Not a 2-day city or a 1-day city. Auckland is a city that beautifully blends natural beauty with urban sophistication. I also think if you're interested in history, culture, outdoors adventures, strangers in bars, there's something for everyone to enjoy in Auckland. I hope this podcast helps.
If you enjoyed this podcast, Noel Anderson's 15 Minutes of Fame, remember to subscribe and share.
I might just add a PS to this podcast. If you are going to Auckland, don't forget to check out the Weta Workshops Unleashed. That's the studio that made Lord of the Rings and lots of other movies. It's a terrific, fun thing to do, and it takes about an hour and 45 minutes to go through. I thoroughly enjoyed it.